We are also tracking new developments in one of the administration's investigations into the president's perceived political enemies. A DOJ official confirming to MS Now that former Trump campaign lawyer Joe diGenova has been tapped to lead the government's probe into former federal officials, including Obama-era CIA Director John Brennan, related to the 2016 Russian election interference investigation. Now, this comes just days after the DOJ removed a veteran prosecutor who was overseeing this probe. MS Now learned that from two sources familiar with this decision. Brennan, we should note, is an MS Now contributor and has been the subject of President Trump's ire for years, going back to that investigation. So well over a decade now, he has denied all wrongdoing. Laura Barone-Lopez is back with us, and former FBI Assistant Special Agent in Charge Michael Feinberg joins us. He's also an MS Now National Security and Intelligence Analyst. So, Laura, lay out for us what we know about diGenova and why the DOJ brought in an outsider for this probe.
So Joseph diGenova was a U.S. attorney during the Reagan era. He's a longtime Trump supporter going back to the first term. And when the intel community was carrying out this investigation into Russian influence in the 2016 election, diGenova constantly spread false claims about it, essentially saying that it was an illegitimate investigation. Take a listen to what he said to Fox News in 2019 about it.
The already occurred meetings between the Attorney General, the CIA Director, and the Director of National Intelligence have now focused on a laser that the core of this conspiracy began with John Brennan and ends with John Brennan. This is very serious business, and for the first time, I now believe that some of these guys are going to go to prison.
So diGenova very clearly backing up this widespread claim by President Trump, by his other allies, essentially trying to argue that this investigation was illegitimate, that it was this grand conspiracy targeting President Trump. But we should say, Anna, that 2020 Senate Intelligence Committee investigation found that Russia did influence the 2016 election in an attempt to sway voters towards President Trump. And that is also backed up by a special counsel investigation that was appointed by then Attorney General Bill Barr, Anna.
Right. The John Durham investigation, which also found that there was no criminal wrongdoing by any of these higher-up federal officials. Laura, this new appointment of diGenova comes after the DOJ removed a career prosecutor who was overseeing this case. What more are we learning about why she was ousted?
So what we have learned, what our colleague Carol Lenig was reporting when this happened, was that Maria Medeiros Long, she's a veteran prosecutor for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida, which is the district, the Southern District is who is looking into this investigation, trying to piece together this conspiracy investigation on behalf of the president. And Long told colleagues in her office that she had recently told her superiors that there was not ample justification to bring criminal charges against John Brennan. And that was according to one person briefed on her discussions who asked to speak anonymously due to the sensitivity of these deliberations. She also told colleagues she expected to withdraw from the case. And so she has. And this is not the first time that a prosecutor has left the Southern District of Florida due to this conspiracy investigation, Anna. Von Hilliard and I reported last fall that 2 prosecutors left then, given this investigation, because they didn't feel comfortable with working on it.
MS Now's Laura Barone-Lopez, thank you. Michael, let me get your reaction to all of this. Can someone who has said these things, like we just played in 2019 with diGenova, about the case and the subjects of an investigation, fairly lead a probe like this?
Probably not, and it's actually worse than we've discussed thus far, for the simple reason that inasmuch as we know anything about this investigation, it seems to be some sort of grand conspiracy attempting to tie in the initial intelligence community assessment that Brennan oversaw with the Mueller inquiry, with the first impeachment, with the second impeachment, with Jack Smith's pair of investigations. In other words, they're throwing everything ever bad that happened with respect to President Trump at the wall and seeing what will stick. Now, where it gets a little ethically murky is that Mr. diGenova actually represented a number of people who were on the periphery of the first impeachment effort. And for that matter, so did Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. So if they really are trying to build out this massive conspiracy scheme and present it to a grand jury or a series of grand juries, it's really difficult for me, both as a former FBI agent and a former attorney, to see how they do not have a massive conflict of interest, which would bar them just as a general matter from this, but also run afoul of some pretty strict DOJ policies.
Brennan spoke about this investigation this weekend here on MS Now, and I want to play part of what he said.
What's very unsettling to me is the message it's sending to the current officers in the intelligence community and law enforcement, whatever, trying to send a chilling sort of signal to them that we can come after you. And, also just the lost opportunity in terms of all of those resources within the Department of Justice that are being dedicated to things like this when we have so many issues and challenges across the board. So I think it's not just a dereliction of duty, but it's just so reckless.
Michael, what kind of lasting impact could this have on America's intelligence community?
To speak plainly, it's going to make us all less safe for the simple reason that now intelligence officers and analysts or special agents or what have you are not going to feel free to do their jobs and follow the facts wherever they may lead. Because inevitably, in a country as large as ours, with as much political division and sadly as much corruption as there is, the intelligence community, the law enforcement community, they're inevitably going to have to look at the behavior of elected officials. And if those elected officials can take revenge on them for good faith efforts to get at the truth, which is the very principle embodied in the CIA's seal in their lobby, ye shall know the truth and it shall set you free, they're going to be reluctant to do their jobs. People are going to get out as soon as they're eligible. New people are not going to replace them. And as a result, our intelligence community and our law enforcement apparatus is going to be underskilled, understaffed, and under-resourced.
Michael Feinberg, I appreciate your insights. Thanks so much for being here.